What is fiber and what is its function? What's the power of fiber?
So fiber is an indigestible nutrient that helps to enhance digestive health.
And the number one thing is get more fiber in your diet no matter what. More fiber, get the fiber crackers.
The secret ingredient to permanent weight loss is fiber.
Fiber, you heard it here.
Fiber is the cornerstone of the F-Factor diet.
So fibre is basically a waste product. The body cannot digest it. So my first question is then, in every other field of life, a waste product is not a good thing. Waste is bad, yeah? Waste is rubbish. Waste is discard. Waste is get rid of. How come in the human body, suddenly waste is this magical thing that we should all be eating 30 grams of a day? How does that add up?
We've been told our entire life that fibre is the holy grail to gut health. Eat your bran, eat your kale, load up on roughage if you want a healthy digestion. But what if the very thing that you're doing is actually causing damage and is actually destroying your gut? One of the questions I get asked about the carnivore diet is, oh, what about fibre? How do you go to the bathroom? Today we're breaking down the flawed history, the actual chemistry, the anatomy, and why dropping the plants might be the best thing you can do for your digestion. Welcome back to Healthier Now, where we cut through the mainstream noise and get back to how humans were meant to eat. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Let's start by looking at how we got totally brainwashed into believing that we needed fibre. The fibre narrative traces back to the 1970s and to an Irish surgeon by the name Dr. Denis Burkitt. After spending time in Africa, Denis Burkitt noticed that rural Africans had lower rates of colorectal cancer compared to the Western people. He assumed it was because they ate more fibre, and then published a bestseller in 1979 called Don't Forget Fibre in Your Diet. There's a glaring problem here. His claims were based on observational epidemiology. He saw two things happen at once and assumed one caused the other, ignoring all the other differences in lifestyle and processed food, etc. But the spark was lit. In 1977, the US government published guidelines of a low-fat, high-carb, high-fibre diet. Big food corporations, Big Pharma, and the FDA jumped on the bandwagon. Suddenly you could put a heart-healthy sticker on a box of sugar-filled cereals just because it had some bran in it. The entire fibre narrative was built on weak science, hijacked by corporate interests. And as we talked about in another video before about the 1977, how that happened because of 3 Harvard professors were paid off to falsify studies. Okay, and one of them was Mark Hegsted, which we talked about, who was the chairman of these new dietary guidelines as well. So they were saying, oh, limit the low fat, the saturated fat. Saturated fat was seen as bad, and these foods are seen as, oh, you needed high fibre. Mainstream media tells us that fibre acts like a broom, sweeping through the intestines to keep things moving. But if you're dealing with IBS, bloating, constipation, you've probably tried eating more fibre only to get more gas and more pain. Why? Because adding roughage to a blocked pipe doesn't clear the pipe. It just creates a bigger blockage. And look what happens when the high fibre trend goes to the extreme. In October 2022, dietitian Tanya Zuckerbrot and her company F-Factor were sued. Customers of her celebrity-backed diet plan alleged that her high fibre powders caused intestinal blockages requiring emergency surgery, debilitating gastric pain, disordered eating, severe allergic reactions, and other serious and permanent injuries. We are literally putting ourselves in hospital to meet an arbitrary 50-year-old corporate fibre goal. Stopping or reducing dietary fibre intake reduces constipation and its associated symptoms. But you don't just have to look at extreme lawsuits to see the problem. Let's look at the actual clinical science. There's a famous 2012 study published in the World Journal of Gastroenterology. It looked at people with chronic constipation. Mainstream advice would say give them more fiber, right? Well, in this study, when they went on a zero fiber diet, their symptoms didn't just improve, they completely resolved. Zero bloating, zero gas, zero straining. And when they added fiber back in, all the problems returned. The science proving that we don't need this stuff is out there. It just gets completely ignored. If you want biological proof that we aren't meant to eat massive amounts of roughage, look at our anatomy compared to other primates. Other primates have a larger cecum and a larger colon. They need a giant internal fermentation vat to process plants. So our cecum is tiny, vestigial. Dietitians love to divide fiber into two camps, soluble and insoluble. Insoluble fiber is your roughage, the one that doesn't dissolve in water. Think of these tough parts of kale and celery. This is the broom they tell you about. But think about what the broom does to your delicate meat-absorbing tissue in your gut. It scratches, it abrades, it irritates. And how does the human body respond to irritation? It produces mucus. When you eat a super spicy pepper, a plant's natural toxic defense mechanism, your nose runs. Your gut does the exact same thing. You force abrasive, insoluble plant fiber through your system, and your intestinal lining upregulates mucus production just to protect itself. People mistake this mucus lubrication evacuation for healthy digestion. It's not. It's an active immune response against something harming you. Then we have the second type of fiber, soluble fiber. This is the stuff that dissolves in water and turns into a thick, sticky gel in your gut. Let's look at the chemistry. So in chemistry terms, fiber, specifically cellulose, is a complex carbohydrate held together by incredibly strong 1,4-beta glycosidic bonds. Humans do not possess the enzymes to break these bonds. Because you can't digest that sticky gel, your gut bacteria have to produce an enzyme complex called cellulase to ferment it. Mainstream experts argue that we need this fermentation to produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. But what they don't tell you is this energy is trapped locally in the large intestine. Eating real butter, for example, gives you butyrate straight, and then you can move past the middleman. The Latin word for butter is butyrum. When chemists first discovered butyric acid, they named it after butter because butter is one of the most richest sources of it in the world. When you drop the carbs and eat a carnivore diet, your liver produces a ketone body called beta-hydroxybutyrate, aka BHB. Beta-hydroxybutyrate floods your bloodstream, crosses the blood-brain barrier to give you massive mental clarity and fuel your entire body. Why settle for a tiny localized hit of energy from fermenting, irritating gel when you can fuel your whole body and brain with clean burning BHB, beta-hydroxybutyrate, from a steak? And that sticky soluble fiber gel, it acts as an anti-nutrient. It alters your normal digestive function by slowing things down and binding to minerals. Studies show gel-forming fibers like pectin and guar gum alter glucose absorption, while cereal fibers wreak havoc on your large gut. Most importantly, it severely impairs your absorption of critical minerals like calcium, zinc, and iron. You could eat the most pristine grass-fed steak, but if you pair it with whole grains or veggies, that fiber binds to those minerals and pulls them right out of your body. You're flushing nutrients down the toilet, basically. So fiber is not a nutrient, it's an anti-nutrient. Not only is it not a nutrient, but it also robs nutrients from you, basically. You're not getting as much zinc or iron or calcium. Now, dietitians might say that fiber is essential for blood sugar control. And if you're eating a standard American diet packed with sugar, fiber does act like a sponge to blunt the spike. But using fiber to slow down this sugar spike is like wearing a bulletproof vest, because you plan on shooting yourself in the chest every morning. Fiber is just a mild antidote to a metabolic poison. If you remove carbs and sugar and eat fatty meat, there is no blood sugar spike to blunt. You don't need the anti-nutrient sponge because sugar simply isn't there. So don't eat sugar in the first place, and then you won't have to blunt it. So the solution is to just not eat sugar in the first place, then you won't need the fiber to blunt the sugar spike. So if we're not using fiber to move things along on a carnivore diet, then what is the solution? When you eat meat, your body absorbs almost all of it. There's very little waste. Dropping fiber can be terrifying because it goes against everything we've been taught. But the proof is the anatomy, the chemistry, and how you feel. If you're struggling with gut issues all your life, zero fiber might be the exact reset your body has been begging for. I want to hear from you. Have you dropped fiber? How did your gut react? Let me know down in the comments. If this video helped you, drop a like, share the video with someone who is struggling with their digestion, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.